Ever catch yourself wondering what that magic ingredient is? You know, the thing that takes someone from just dreaming about an idea to building a whole empire.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't just mean having like a brilliant idea, it's more about like having the sheer will to actually make it happen, no matter what life throws at you.
You're speaking my language. That's exactly what we're digging into today, this whole idea of grit.
Okay, but hold on.
We're not talking about some, superhero thing here.
Right.
We're talking about that real world grit, the kind that fuels entrepreneurs to push through all those inevitable challenges they're going to face.
So let's break this down a bit. We've got a whole bunch of sources here, right? Articles that map out these crazy entrepreneurial journeys, research on resilience, because honestly, who doesn't love a good comeback story?
Who doesn't?
And even some deep dives into the minds of business titans, people like Howard Schultz and Elon Musk.
Yeah, and you know what's really interesting? Across all these different voices, all these different perspectives, the idea of grit kind of emerges as this common thread, this like binding element,
Okay, so it's more than just like hard work then.
way more than just clocking in the hours. It's about this burning passion, this unwavering commitment to your vision,
Especially when,
especially when things get, a little messy.
and they always do, right? I mean, one article I was looking at, it pointed out that almost half of startups, they go belly up within like the first 5 years, which I don't know about you, but that's kind of intimidating.
That's a scary statistic for
Yeah.
sure. And it really highlights why this whole grit thing is so crucial,
Mhm.
In that entrepreneurial world,
Mhm.
building something from nothing, it's not a cakewalk.
Not at all.
Take Howard Schultz, for instance.
Yeah.
Starbucks, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine being told no over and over? Just because people didn't get it. They didn't understand this whole idea of a chain of cozy coffee shops.
I mean, you'd think they'd be lining up for that, but
You'd think so, right?
yeah.
But Schultz, he was driven by this unshakable belief in his idea. He didn't just ignore those rejections, he learned from them. Every single one.
So he turned those no's into fuel.
Exactly, use them as stepping stones. And look at Starbucks now. It's like a global coffee empire. It's like the ultimate comeback story.
It really is. So it's not just about like bouncing back from those setbacks. It's about, like you said, actually taking something from them.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
True grit, it's not about being too scared to fail.
Yeah.
It's about shifting your whole perspective,
Right.
seeing failure as a necessary step.
Okay, I like that. So those bumps in the road.
They're often the best teachers, They're full of lessons.
Okay. So we're talking about grit as this combination of passion, right? Perseverance, and this ability to kind of adapt when things inevitably go sideways.
Yeah.
We talked about bouncing back from those failures, but what about maintaining that drive over the long haul? Because building a business, it's not a quick thing. It takes years, sometimes decades of just pure dedication.
Oh, for sure.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
It's definitely a marathon. You need serious stamina, and you need that unwavering belief in what you're building.
It's easy to lose sight of that though, right? When things get tough.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Think about Elon Musk, right? Tesla, SpaceX. These ventures are crazy ambitious, constantly hitting roadblocks,
Mhm.
whether it's, those nail-biting production delays or the constant struggle to secure funding.
High stakes stuff.
High stakes, for sure. But here's the thing. Musk never loses sight of that big picture. That vision for sustainable energy, for space exploration, unwavering, even in the middle of all that chaos. That, my friend, is grit in action.
So it's about holding on to that long-term vision, even when it feels like everything around you is like totally out of control.
100%. It's about having that unshakable faith in what you're building, even when you're surrounded by doubts.
But that doesn't mean like stubbornly sticking to an idea that's clearly not working, right?
Right. There's a difference between like unwavering vision and just running headfirst into a wall.
So how do you know when to, maybe change course a little?
That's where adaptability comes in.
Yeah.
Which, funnily enough, is another big part of grit that keeps popping up in our research.
So being flexible is part of being gritty.
In a way, yeah. It's not about being rigid. It's about knowing when you need to adjust your sails when the wind changes direction.
Okay, I like that. So like holding on to that long-term vision doesn't mean you can't be flexible and adapt along the way.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance. A great example of this, and we'll get into this a bit more, but Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft,
Oh, yeah, okay.
when he took over Microsoft, they were seen as this kind of like this tech giant, but stuck in its old ways, struggling to keep up with the constantly changing digital world.
Which, let's be honest, the tech world moves at like warp speed.
Oh, yeah. It changes fast, really fast.
So what did he do? I mean, how do you even start to shift a company that massive?
Well, Nadella, he had the grit, I guess you could say, to just say, all right, everyone, hold on. We're changing direction. We're switching gears.
He basically took a company known for selling software and said, hey, the future is in the cloud. Let's go.
Exactly. He embraced cloud computing, dove headfirst into AI. These were areas where Microsoft was, to be honest, initially a pretty small player.
It's amazing how these leaders were able to transform challenges into opportunities for growth.
It really is. It speaks to that adaptability that's like baked into the whole idea of grit.
Nadella, he didn't just, keep Microsoft afloat. He launched it into a whole new era.
It's like instead of being afraid of the change, he embraced it.
Exactly. And that's key. It's about always looking for ways to evolve, to learn, to change your strategies when the game changes. And believe me, in the tech world, the game changes like every 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's constantly evolving. Okay, but here's where I get a little tripped up. We often talk about grit as if it's like this innate thing, like you're either born with it or you're not. But what I'm hearing from you, from all this research, is that grit is something you can actually develop, like a muscle you can train. You're hitting the nail on the head. Grit isn't, some magical quality that only a few people have. It's something you can cultivate, you can build. And you know what plays a huge role in that? Your environment.
What do you mean?
The people you surround yourself with. Building a strong support system, that's crucial. Having mentors, advisors, even just other entrepreneurs who've been there, done that, they can offer so much support when things get tough, when you hit those bumps in the road.
So it's not about like locking yourself in your basement and just powering through alone. It's more about like building your own personal team.
Yes, exactly. Having that network, it can make all the difference. Trust me, whether you're, starting a tech company or just trying to perfect a recipe, you're going to hit roadblocks.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so we've got embracing those failures, having a crystal clear vision, and building that A-team support system. But let's get practical for a second. Imagine someone's listening to us right now and they're thinking, okay, this grit thing, it sounds great, but how do I actually do it? Where do we even start?
That's the million-dollar question. And luckily, our research actually offers some really practical advice.
Okay, lay it on me.
First things first.
Yeah.
You got to get really specific about your goals.
So not just like, I want to start a business.
Right. Not vague dreams, concrete, measurable goals. Think, what does success actually look like?
So define success. Figure out what it means to you.
Yes. What impact do you want to have? How are you going to track your progress?
Yeah.
By breaking down those big, daunting goals into smaller, more manageable steps, you create a roadmap. It's like having a GPS for your grit journey.
Okay, I like that. So it's less overwhelming, right? You're not just staring at this massive mountain. You're focusing on that next step.
Exactly. And each step you take, no matter how small, it's a victory.
You got to celebrate those wins.
Yes. It fuels your motivation, strengthens your grit, and it reminds you that you've got this, that you can keep going.
It's all about building that momentum one step at a time.
100%. Now, another key strategy. You got to change your relationship with failure.
Okay, I knew you were going to say that. But how? How do you actually do that? Because it still feels crummy to fail.
It does. It does. And look, it's not about, avoiding every single obstacle. It's about changing how you view those obstacles.
So instead of seeing it as this like dead end, you see it as a detour, like maybe even a chance to find a better way.
Exactly. One that might even lead you to something even better than you imagined. Sometimes those unexpected twists and turns, those are the things that lead to the most creative solutions.
It's like sometimes you got to get a little lost to find your way, right?
Sometimes. Speaking of detours, let's talk about self-care for a minute.
Okay.
Because we're talking about passion and pushing through those walls, staying focused. It can be a lot.
Yeah, it's intense.
So where does actually taking care of yourself fit into this whole grit equation?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's easy to forget about that part when you're like heads down, working towards a goal.
Yeah, it is. It is. But you can't run on empty, right? Even the most driven entrepreneur, they need to hit pause sometimes and recharge.
So what are we talking about here? Like meditation retreats, daily massages?
Think a bit more everyday stuff. Although, hey, those things are great too.
Yeah.
It's more about those healthy habits. Regular exercise, for example. That can do wonders for your energy and your
Oh,
resilience.
absolutely. Getting that blood pumping can really change your whole mindset.
Totally. And sleep. Never underestimate a good night's sleep.
Sleep is so underrated.
It's when your brain resets. And then there's mindfulness. Even just taking a few minutes to meditate each day.
Even just like 5 minutes can make a difference.
Right. It can help you manage that stress and stay grounded, especially when things get a little crazy in that entrepreneurial world.
So, in a way, self-care, it's almost like an act of grit in itself.
There you go.
It's like saying, I'm in this for the long haul, so I'm going to take care of myself so I can actually show up and do the work.
100%. Think of it as strategic refueling. You wouldn't expect a race car to run on fumes, would you?
Definitely not.
It's about recognizing that taking care of yourself, your well-being, it's not selfish. It's essential.
I love that. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about what grit is, why it's so important for entrepreneurs, and even some practical ways to like tap into your own inner grit.
We did.
But what's really sticking with me is that this isn't just about, building some billion-dollar company. It's about facing those challenges, those tough moments in any part of your life, right?
Right. Absolutely. All of this, the passion, the perseverance, the resilience, it applies to anything that demands dedication,
hmm
whether it's your career, your personal life, your creative pursuits.
It's about figuring out what really lights you up inside, what you're willing to really fight for.
Yes, exactly.
And then having that deep down determination to see it through.
And it doesn't have to be this huge monumental thing. Start small.
Small steps.
What's one thing you've been putting off? Something that makes you curious, something you're passionate about. What's one little step you can take today to reignite that spark?
I love that. It's not about like making this massive leap, just a step in the right direction.
Exactly. And then tomorrow, you take another one and another one. And before you know it, all those little steps, they add up to something amazing. Remember, grit, it's not about never falling down. It's about having the strength to get back up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward.